All right, Dave, we're here talking Mike Tyson now. I've gone to you because I know for a fact you have a Mike Tyson painting up in your home garage. Is that true? Yeah, have I imagined it?
Absolutely. Mike Tyson was an enigma, mate, and he still is an enigma. You know that.
He is an enigma, isn't he? I mean, the fact that the social media work of his at the moment screams enigma. But tell me, were you a Mike Tyson fan from the get-go? When did you jump on?
Everyone was in the 80s, 90s, mate. Everyone was a Mike Tyson fan. You know, you when he fought, you looked at you counted the rounds about whether he first round, second round, third round, whether we knock him out. Then there was the uncomfortable era after Holyfield beat him a second time, and it was like, oh dear, he went downhill. But the early days, he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal.
I can only imagine because there's no real. The probably the closest thing in recent years is probably a Golovkin in terms of looking at somebody and going, when's he going to knock him out? But in terms of the pop culture mainstream appeal that Tyson had, which is just crazy because he wasn't a good guy by any stretch, Dave.
He was an animal. He was less than an animal. He was a disgrace. Mate, he was a disgrace. He wanted to kill people's family members and so forth. And he said that in openly in those press conferences. But you know what, Dan, you got to respect the great white shark. He has no natural predators, and he had none. Like he went into the ring with a towel, with a head cut out through the towel, over the top, black shorts, black shoes, and he went there to destroy people.
And he didn't want to make friends. Wouldn't he just come out to either no music or just chains sort of crashing? Wasn't it?
It was. And that look on his face was like, I am there to do the job, and I'm there not to make friends. I'm not here to showboat. I'm there just to kill you. And that's pretty much where it was. Those early days, he was angry.
Isn't it so weird, though, that like in this day and age, I don't know how much that would fly. People don't... Like, if you've got somebody that's... Let's be honest, he was a convicted sex offender that comes out and you know that, okay, yeah, he goes in the ring and kills people, but there's a good chance this bloke could kill somebody in real life. I don't know if people would love that anymore, but people are still enamored by this bloke.
They are. They still, and seriously, they still love him, don't they? People still, but you know what the best thing about him? What you see with Tyson is what you get.
Yeah.
He has said quotes throughout his journey, right? And we know he talks about his failings with drugs and his women and threw all his money away. And still, you know, I think there was a great quote where he said, you know, Mayweather says he's the greatest of all time in Vegas, and he said, you know, he's a little man, and greatness is taking your children to school without security and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He's just a scared little boy. And I think everyone's seen that. He's not scared of just saying it straight.
No, yeah, you're right.
I think that's what Tyson's so everyone loves him.
Well, I guess that's the thing. It's when it goes beyond the ring, and Tyson had that ability to either be in a press conference or where, as you sort of alluded to before, when he said to Lennox Lewis, he's like, I want your heart and I want to eat your children. It's like, what? There's a headline for tomorrow. Of course we can print that.
I know. He's just out of control. But look, you know, I think watching the video the other day of him punching on, like it went viral. The first went for about 10 seconds, it went viral. The second one went for 25 seconds, it went viral. I mean, people are still really interested in him. And look, between you and I, Dan, and all your listeners, I hope he doesn't fight, because the anticipation of watching him train is better than a 4-minute or a 4-round exhibition fight where you know that he's going to look like a 53-year-old.
Yeah.
He's not going to have the same... Like, he looks after a marijuana factory these days, or he grows marijuana for a living. He can't be too angry.
No, he can't be. And let's be honest, if he's not angry, it's not Mike Tyson, is it? Mind you, Dave, it's easy to forget because he looks pissed off on the pads, doesn't he? He doesn't look angry, doesn't look happy at all. But the thing is, what do you reckon it is that has people so interested by him? Because, yeah, all right, there's been the last, I don't know, let's say year, there's been those little videos that have sort of come out from time to time. Might be him with an NBA player or somebody, and he's sort of showing them how you move around. And there was all those little things where you go, geez, he's still strong, Tyson, isn't he? He still looks good through the hips and all that sort of thing. There's still been that groundswell for interest in Tyson, but I don't know why. I can't put my finger on why, because realistically, until the last couple of years, his public perception hasn't been good. He hasn't really... No, it hasn't. The last thing that we remember about Tyson's boxing career were losses and like a shell of the man that he was.
He was terrible. He was terrible. He got his last one, Fennick threw the towel in his last fight.
Yeah.
Like, it was shocking. But I think we grew up with Tyson, right? Muhammad Ali was a memory. He was a black and white video, and we only hear stories of how good he actually was and who he fought and the competition that he went up against. Tyson went through an era where, he fought the best, and heavyweight fighters looked like heavyweight fighters. They were muscular, they were ginormous human beings. Now you get, overweight butterbeans and there's not a lot of character, and he came through this era where people were frightened of him, but they couldn't. It was like a car crash. You couldn't stop watching him. And, I think that's sort of how he is still.
And I think the thing with, at the moment, the interest, obviously the interest has been there for a little while, but with what we're all going through at the moment, there's bugger all to look forward to, isn't there? I was sort of saying this earlier in the show where we don't have anything to look forward to. Look at us all with the Last Dance documentary, the Michael Jordan documentary. Every bastard's jumped on board. I'm not even a big NBA fan. Suddenly I'm going, I love NBA. I love it.
Yeah, I know. They're old too.
They're old too. And they're from a bygone era of, it's sort of memories and like historical moments people have that they look back on and go, oh, weren't they the days? So it's given us something to get excited about again. And look, did you see, because there's all this talk, maybe Tyson's going to do an exhibition fight. Who should he fight? If he did, Dave, who would you want to see him do it with?
He'd have to fight Holyfield.
He would, wouldn't he?
He'd have to fight. It's got zero interest in fighting Sonny Bill or Barry Hall. It's got zero interest. It's got to be a nostalgic fight and Holyfield was the man. I mean, Holyfield came out with a video yesterday too. I saw of him on the pads again. He did not look anything like Tyson.
He didn't look a thing like Tyson. I spent all day yesterday saying to my brother, I'm going, it has to be Holyfield. Holyfield only last fought in 2015. He'd probably touch up Tyson. Mind you, I hadn't looked at Holyfield in a while and looked at that video and I thought, oh God, now I look like an idiot. He's taken way more punishment across a longer career than Tyson. He's past it. I don't think that fight would be any good.
No, I don't think so. But I think, look, it would be interesting to see him fight rather than an exhibition fight. I'd like to see a competitive fight if he was going to fight somebody someone in the ranks. Like Sonny Bill's he's had 9 fights or something like that. You still want him to fight someone competitive. I actually think Tyson would destroy him. I really do. He moves so well through the hips still for a 53-year-old guy. 53-year-old guy that's gone through the amount of cocaine that he has when you read his book. I'm surprised he's not dead, you know, and he still moves really well through the hips and his strength is still in. Oh, my goodness. I mean, yourself, mate, the anticipation and the training videos are better than the fights in most times. You hit the fight day.
Almost always.
Yeah, it is.
It's... Well, tell me then, what do you think? Because I tend to agree. If he's going to do it properly and actually have a competitive fight, one that's going to matter against his record, because those exhibition fights are all bullshit. We've all seen the Rocky movies. We've all seen Rocky Balboa going up against Hulk Hogan in that, what was it? Thunder Lips. That's it. We've all got a bad taste in our mouth of the exhibition fight at this point. But you got to remember, last year, there was all that talk about Tyson Wilder. Now, Wilder is a prime conditioned athlete, but the argument from me, Dave, is that he's been exposed. He's got a lot of weakness, Wilder, and we've seen that he's not a good boxer by any stretch. He's a good puncher. Is there a chance where that's probably the most interest fight out there, isn't it?
Mate, it would be fantastic to see. I think my personal view is Tyson would hurt him.
I think he'd hurt him.
Absolutely hurt him.
Well, if Fury's able to hurt him, and the thing we saw with Wilder was as soon as he was pushed backwards, he couldn't fight. He couldn't fight on the back foot. Tyson's not going to go backwards. Tyson's just going to come forward 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
So I reckon that's an interesting fight.
Would be Wilder would have everything to lose and nothing to gain.
Yeah.
He would have everything to lose and nothing to gain. So he wouldn't take the fight, but it would be an amazing fight to see. Tyson would have to get him in the first 3 to 4 rounds or he'd run out of gas.
Oh, he's not going to go 12 rounds at this point.
No way. No. If he doesn't, but he would knock him out in the first 2 or 3 rounds if he was going to knock him out. I think his defense and the way he moves, Wilder would never have come up against someone that could do that. And Wilder did call him out too, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Wilder said he would knock Tyson out. And then suddenly you see Tyson training. Dave, maybe he is more pissed off than we think. Maybe he is pissed. I don't know. But look, I base it on this. Would I buy the fight? Would I pay for it? I'd pay for that. I would pay big money for it.
Yes, I would. I'd pay for Wilder versus Tyson without any shadow of a doubt. And that could, it could make money for his homeless charities and stuff over there, man. Getting a hell of a lot of marijuana, I don't know.
I think we might be onto something, because the reality is Wilder fights for money. He fights to try and put money on the table for his daughter that's sick, and we all know that. But Tyson, Tyson's going to take a payday. If he's coming back, he wants a big payday. The biggest money I can see looking at it is a Wilder-Tyson fight. Has to be. Tell me, though, before we go, what's your favourite Tyson fight?
Oh, look, honestly, I don't know. I think the Holyfield one leading up to the bite, right? Leading up to the bite in the first round. The third round, Tyson was doing so well against him, and up until then, some of his early fights with Tyson he was all over him, like he was all over and so forth. I mean, you can't go past the Evander Holyfield fights with him. Holyfield was an amazing fighter. You look back at him and you look at the build on him. He had to be on the gear for sure. He had to be.
I don't want to believe he was, because I want to believe that's an achievable body. Not that I'll ever get near it, but my God, he looked fantastic.
He was phenomenal. So I reckon they're probably my best fights. Those fights there, they were the lead up to them. Even though Tyson was doing really well. It was only the headbutt that he cracked the shits, and that it did the bite. The bite was obviously of a madman, but
he was landing plenty on Holyfield in those first 4 rounds.
And Holyfield came up with that headbutt and split his eye, and that's what Gracie cracked the shits on it. And it just went downhill from there, and will always be remembered. But look, I think as I said, mate, everyone loves. There can be, all the car crashes all weekend, but people will look at the paper and go, wow, there was a shark attack down at wherever on a great white shark. I still think he's just one of those great white sharks. He had no predators. He just captivated the whole audience, and people loved him. Even they loved to hate him. They loved to watch him. They just watched him in awe.
Yeah.
And, in terms of, we spoke the other day through Facebook, and I think Tyson would have taken on and beaten Muhammad Ali at his best. But
yeah, you thought that.
Yeah, I actually do. I just think he would have just overcame with power. I just think his power would have got him.
You don't think, though, I mean, not to go off on a tangent here, you don't think that, I mean, look at who Ali fought. I'd love to know who hit harder out of Frazier, George Foreman and Tyson. They're all big punches.
I know. Foreman was a disgrace. He was unbelievable. When you see him punching into that bag, the big bag, he was a monster.
The dent that was in that bag was just ridiculous. And then you see Ali go rope-a-dope and take him 10 rounds before knocking him out in like the 13th round. And mate, that's back in the days of 15-round fights.
No, it's bizarre. No wonder they were all cooked in the mind, mate, I'll tell you.
You don't stand a chance going 15 rounds in heavyweight and punching on with blokes like Foreman and Frazier. Frazier, they fight 2 or 3 times, Ali and Frazier. It's like, how could you do that? 30-odd rounds of boxing. Oh.
And if you ever see Once We Were Kings as the movie, right? The world has portrayed Muhammad Ali as this saint and so forth. But Muhammad Ali to Joe Frazier was an absolute animal in those early days. He was really bad. You know, remember him doing the gorilla impressions and bringing a little gorilla mannequin and all that sort of stuff. He was really bad to Frazier, even to a point where in the end, Frazier, even though they were friends near the end, halfway through when you watch this movie, he goes, I was secretly happy that Muhammad got what he got because he was so bad to me in those early days, and he wasn't an educated man. And Muhammad was really educated.
Yeah,
Joe Frazier was not, and he really pushed that hard, and he really made him look stupid in the public eye.
Oh yeah, he was terrible. Some of the stuff he said. Yeah, again, it's funny how in history you can sort of look back through the rose-colored glasses, you know, and sort of you want to remember these legends for the way you want to remember them. You don't want to remember the negative.
No, that's right.
And that's probably why, Dave, we're forgiving of the sexual misconduct convictions of one Mike Tyson, and we just want to see him back in the ring.
What? That's right. Absolutely. And mate, I mean, the night before he got beaten by Buster Douglas, if you read his book, he had his head in a box of bloody cocaine, and he had a threesome in Japan the night before. So he was off his nut, and he had 3 girls in one night, and that was before it. So he was just. You got to read. I'm surprised he's not dead for the amount of cocaine that he put up his nose. Throughout the years. I mean, he spent millions.
He's very much the sort of person where he's so mythical, as you said earlier, that it almost feels like he is one of those people that died at some. Like he fits into that category of those rock stars of a period that went so hard and fast that they died, and because of that they reached a higher legend status. It's crazy that he's alive. Like, did you ever catch him on the Joe Rogan podcast? Did you hear that conversation?
I've seen some of it. Yeah,
it's just mind blowing, and he like sort of revisits all those memories of his boxing career. It's astounding he was able to wipe the floor with blokes the way he did. It makes you think, if he was clean and clear-minded and sort of focused, what kind of damage could he have done for a long period of time?
No one would have come close then.
Yeah, he probably would have touched up Holyfield. He would have beaten Holyfield.
He would have if he had his head right and his mind on it 100%, and but his whole makeup was what he was like. You know, at 13 he was stealing people's wallet on the streets and punching on. He had a body of a 21-year-old at 13. You know, built like a man possessed at 13, and street fighting. That's just who he is. You know, and if he had an educated mind, he probably would never have gotten the boxing in the first place. You know, that's what he said to his son. He goes, "You'll never be able to do what I did because you didn't have the upbringing that I had."
It's true. To not have the mental scars he had from an early life, he probably would never have been able to go to that place that he went to. And you see, there was that interview with him somewhat recently where he starts crying. He's on a podcast with Sugar Ray Leonard, and he starts crying saying, I can't, I'm not that person anymore. I wish I could be that person still, but that person's gone. And it's just such a confronting moment of, if you're that up in the head, that's the sort of, that's what it can lead to, is that sort of mentality. And he was a bloody killer. He was an absolute killer. But what have we decided here, Dave? I think we've decided that we would like to see the killer return one more time.
One more time for Wilder. Absolutely.
Why not? And he's got our money. He's got our cash money already.
He has. Mano. He is going straight for it, but I'm paying up already. Pay in advance, pay-per-view. And mate, we'll be on it. I'm all over it.
Actually, what we'll do is we'll go to your place and you can put on the barbecue again, as you so often do, and we'll put it on the big screen. That'll be lovely. And I'll give you some money for it.
Oh, it's all right. I'm still waiting for the last bit.
Yeah, I thought you might have been. Thanks for jumping on, Dave. Appreciate you talking Tyson with me. And hopefully we have a fight and we can get you back on to discuss it.
Good on you, mate. All the very best, Dan. Have a great day, everyone. Good on you, bud.
Thanks, Dave.